guys, welcome to the Red Star Interviews, and today we are joined by the NonSequitur Show. So thank you very much, guys, for joining. I love your content, and it's amazing to have you on.
Do you really? There are people
Somebody does, yay.
Well, I don't understand why anyone would hate your content specifically. You've got a
trust me.
large diversity of it, so it's sort of like to hate all of it as one. It seems kind of weird.
There are plenty of people that do. That's the thing about this show, that it's kind of I guess you have to put it in the negative category, because since we cover so many different topics, from flat Earth, religion, pseudoscience, conspiracies, you get everybody that's going to be pissed off at you. You're going to make one side angry. So we're constantly fighting. It feels like battles from flat earthers, extremely religious people who hold conspiracies to be true. So it's just a never-ending. There are plenty of people who hate our content.
Ah, I guess that sort of makes sense. So, well, how did you guys initially start out with doing this show?
Well, I contacted Steve. What was it, in November of 2017, Steve?
Just before the new year, yeah, a couple months before.
Steve still runs a group on G Plus called the Great Debate Community, and they do a lot of various debates on different subjects. I'll let him talk about that here in just a second. But I had watched a debate between Christopher Hitchens, who is one of my all-time favorite people. He's like a role model for me. And it auto played into a debate between someone named G-Man and Red's Rhetoric. And I was used to just watching, formal debates between people that set up it's broadcast on TV. I was unaware that there was this whole subculture of debates going on YouTube from just your average person. And so I found it interesting, and I couldn't turn away. I just kept watching debate after debate after debate after debate. And I had picked 4 people that I wanted to do sort of like a documentary, like VH1 used to do with Behind the Music, where they would have the backstory of, why this person got into music. I wanted to do that with these debaters, because there were 4 people that you've seen within this community pop up almost every time. They're the center of the drama, the center of the good debates. It was just a really unique dynamic going on. And so Steve happened to be one of those people that I contacted. I had an interview with Steve, and we clicked. And it was about a week later, I decided to scrap the idea for the documentary, and I was like, we just need to do like a podcast or something, and where we host a couple of these. I think what did we say, Steve? Once a week, maybe?
Initially I think we were going to do once a week, and that turned into twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 days a week, pretty much 5 times a day, it seemed.
Yeah,
really quickly.
It definitely expanded quickly, but yeah, it was just sort of one of those things that there was no elaborate game plan. It was kind of let's throw. Oh, by the way, let me ask: what kind of language are we?
You can use if you want to have a couple of swears in there. It's fine. We can sort of work around it. Do not worry.
Okay. All right. I was gonna say we just kind of threw shit at the wall and see what stuck, and what stuck was something that actually worked. So it was one of those rare opportunities that people get. Lucky.
Yeah, it was one of those things we knew right off the bat that there was good ideas being bantered about. I had been doing a lot of stuff with the Great Debate Community, and I knew what direction I wanted to take that. A couple other people felt otherwise. And when Kyle had first introduced himself to me, it was a very fortuitous moment. It was very opportune for me, because I was like, this is somebody who actually is kind of having the same vision that I'm envisioning. And I think that he has the skill sets to take us there, because I knew very quickly that he could do very great artistic work and graphic design and things of that nature, which is something I lack. And so we started doing the podcast, and that started taking off decently. But I was already on YouTube, and most of the Great Debate Community knows the people from YouTube. And so we decided to kind of migrate over to YouTube, and it's just been a huge success ever since. So it was kind of just a luck of the draw that he happened to contact me just at the right time. And like he said, we clicked on the ideas, and the idea was basically about these topics that most people don't really really get exposed to. Let's get some unique guests in here, because I was bringing some very popular YouTubers, but well known, on my channel before, and I was like, let's just blow it up.
We
And Kyle had high aspirations. I mean, his metrics actually came to be. He actually said by this date we should have this, and we pretty much nailed every target. So
we weren't originally going to do YouTube. We
right.
At first we're just going to do the iTunes and like Spotify, the audio podcast. So if you go back to the very beginning, like the first 6 episodes that are there are audio only. There's just the thumbnail and it plays, and it's just the back and forth. I didn't want to go into YouTube to begin with. I just thought that was just would be a headache, and you'd have to. It's just a different dynamic. You have to be like visually aware all the time when you're on. Everything has to look a certain way, and I was very resistant at first to doing that, but it wound up being the thing to do. So
I had to convince him, but
it worked.
I'm so glad that we did. And I got to tell you, if you go back and listen to the original pods that we did, both Kyle and I have come a long way. I had to do an awful lot of editing back in the original days when we were doing the podcast. We both had vocalized pauses, a lot of a lot of things that we just didn't think that was going to be carried over to the list. We do it almost every day. Actually, I would say every single day. It's almost like second nature to have these conversations. And I find that the discourse has been elevated greatly, because we can have guests come on and literally just talk about anything. I mean, the amount of variety we have on NonSequitur is unlike any other YouTube. And I've been on for about 6 years, but I can't even imagine anything that's comparable. And by the way, like he said, you always have people that like some of the shows. You're gonna have people that dislike some of the shows, but the real thumb is you can't please everybody, and so you do your best, hope the most amount of people watch, and if a couple of them don't like it but still watch, good enough for me.
Yeah, no, that's very good, especially like what you're saying about when you're initially coming to it with like sort of your arms and ahs. Like when I was on my Destiny interview, it was great. It was live streamed in front of what was it, like 4,000 to 6,000 people. And the entire chat was giving me a sort of, because every time I would speak and sort of give a question, somewhere along it I would say sort of, and it got blown up in the chat about saying sort of too many times by his fans.
My thing is look it.
Yeah, look it.
Yeah.
Look it.
Destiny,
look it.
Destiny's chat too is not shy about their opinions either.
No.
Oh no. It's quite great. It's great being part of it, but also being the subject of it.
Yes, even for us, like I happen to I'm a huge fan of Destiny. Like I think he's just absolutely brilliant in his discussions that he has with people, and just his whole persona. I think is it's just a breath of fresh air as far as personalities go on YouTube. And I have a social program that you can go to, and it picks up like throughout the internet, whether it be on Twitter or Reddit, but it'll pick up when someone mentions your show, like in our case, NonSequitur. And so I'll go in and look, and after the first time we had Destiny on, actually no, it was the second time we had Destiny on, somebody put a post in Destiny's subreddit, and the heading was, "All right, he's been on NonSequitur twice. All right, the NonSequitur Show." And for 2 days I refused to click on that link, because I know how Reddit is to begin with.
Yeah,
Reddit's just after 2 days I went and clicked on it, and everything was surprisingly positive. No one had anything really bad to say, and I kind of walked away from that going, wow, that's a good thing right there, because they're, like I said, they're not shy about their opinions at all.
Yeah, no, and like it's great sort of dealing with other communities as well, and just sort of seeing how certain people react to different content in different communities as well. Like you can have a channel that is like seemingly pretty PC, pretty normal and pretty tame in their content, but then like their community is just so rabid and just aggressive at the same time, and it's great. It's great seeing and how that deals with that.
We dealt with that last night, actually.
Yeah, I'd say the chat last night was the worst I've ever seen. Even worse than the Flat Earther ones.
Well, admittedly, like
bad.
because you had JF on last night, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like he would probably bring just general bit of controversy and initially just in anything he does.
But the topic was actually biology. It wasn't something that controversial of a topic. I mean,
It
the
wasn't
topic
him
was
either.
James worth of memes.
The
Yeah.
thing-
And actually, I was on JF's side for this particular. That he put forth a better argument. I happen to agree with his argument. So it wasn't anything like radicalized or anything dealing with anything controversial that should trigger the people in the live chat, but they sure were.
The chat wasn't because of him though. They weren't like coming and on his behalf. What he said, and it makes sense now that I think about it, was that he bans certain people in his chat. Those people get angry and follow him to whatever show he's going on, and so what they're doing is the people that are JF haters are going to other people's chats and kind of blowing it up. I had to ban the word potato last night and the emoji. I literally had to copy and paste the potato.
Yeah, I had to go
emoji.
back through and unban our regulars that accidentally got banned and apologize to them. Sorry guys, I fixed
How
it.
that was. Our nun bot, we have a thing called a nun bot, and it keeps up with if you type a certain word like a racial expletive, it will delete the message and ban the person automatically. Right? We just do that because we don't care what you say. You just can't be racial. No racism or spamming. And I put the potato in there last night, and then I was looking at the tally. 98 people were banned because of the word potato last night. 98 people.
Oh,
That's the state of affairs we're in.
That is great. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's on the way.
Yeah. I guess sort of going along that sort of vein, like, I guess sort of you guys are in a unique position where you have so many different arguments about so many different things. Do you feel that you have sort of a responsibility to sort of, like, how much responsibility do you feel in making sure that there's enough intellectual honesty, that you're presenting the best content? Because certain people will be like, you have to be absolutely responsible, you have to be absolutely careful with everything you put up that you platform. Or some people are just like, just let them go at it, blood sports it, let's see what happens, I don't really care. So what are your guys' take on this specifically?
It has a lot to do, I think, intent. Intent's I don't go based on like about who we're going to bring on. It's never a discussion on, okay, how will this affect views or sub count, or will this make this group angry or this group angry? It's entirely about what the person's intent is. Like with JF. JF's a very controversial figure because he's been in several different discussions about ethno-states. There's just controversy there. And I'm fielding messages all day long today about, somebody would say, never give JF a platform again, or you shouldn't have had JF, or you should be disappointed, or we're disappointed that you had JF on. These people have bad ideas. I can say that anybody that advocates for an ethno-state is a really bad idea. But an even worse idea is to try to ignore that those people or those thoughts exist. When you do that, all you do is drive people further underground. If you are able to, I think it comes down to maturity a lot of times. If you're able to sit back and listen to two people have a discussion on an ethno-state, let's say that you have that debate on whether or not we should have an ethno-state. Destiny's had several. And I've sit there and listened to many of them. And when you do that, when you have that idea beside what I consider a rational idea, which is what we have now, everybody kind of coming together, and doesn't matter what race you are, you're able to see in black and white which one is the better idea. And I think that it takes away that kind of wondering. If you did have somebody that maybe was on the fence about, maybe an ethno-state would be so bad, but there's nobody talking about it, so all I can do is go to echo chambers and hear different talking points. I don't think that's beneficial. I think if you have a discussion going on and you have two sides put out there, that's going to effectively make that person, I think, see that, wow, this is a really bad idea. I can't believe that I ever thought of it. So I'm not afraid to platform controversy, and I don't do it based on what I think is the most popular idea. In fact, most often we usually go with the least the least popular idea in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I take a similar approach on that as well. I don't think that deplatforming people on these kind of things really is beneficial to anybody. We decided when we first started on Sec, we're going to have a controversial show, but not in a malignant way, not in a malicious way. We wanted to have where people will have a conversation about the topic. Obviously, there's certain things that we decided we're not going to have conversations about. We're not going to have people come on and promote them or things of that nature. But there are times where people will be talking about certain topics that are sensitive and people may not like it. But last night wasn't even a sensitive topic. It was a topic that was very myopic, very narrow in focus, dealing specifically with memetics, and will have no experience with. But the fact it just happened to be JF. Well, my thing is this: if a person is going to be coming on a program to talk about something, then that particular program, you don't have to. There's other things out there to watch. I'm not doing these shows so people feel like they're obligated to watch, right? Kyle and I will put forth a show, and if it's a great show and it gets 100 views, we'll be just as happy if we have a really crappy show that got 100,000 views. We want something. Well, he likes the views, but I mean, to me, it's not really that big a deal. I just want the correct information to go out. Kyle can probably validate that. I am kind of a stickler on that. If I say something that's incorrect, I want to make sure that it gets the correct information out. And so JF was a proper person to have for this discussion last night. He was very well informed of it. I know his background and what we're having. And so you can't just go around saying, well, I don't think that you should have this person on your channel. Okay, well, we appreciate that. And you don't have to have them on your channel. But Kyle and I made the decision we're going to have on whoever we want to have on, and not cater to, because look what happens if we do this. If somebody says, hey, you shouldn't have this person on, and the next time somebody says, hey, you know what, you shouldn't have this person on. Oh, and the next time you shouldn't have this person on. Who are we going to have on? I mean, somebody's always going to piss somebody off. Okay, not everybody agrees with that. Everybody, not everybody likes everybody. There's always going to be somebody who's going to say, yeah, you know what, I really don't want to listen to that person. Okay, fine. That episode, go watch something else. They have no issue with that. But I know a lot of people that have said, hey, you know what, just skip this episode. But then you have others that just sit there and for like 5 hours will message you, do you know their history, do you know their background, and lecture you like you're not familiar with the history.
They still watch.
That is true. That's the funniest part. They still watch. Yes. So
it's like a car wreck. You can't look away.
At the same time, frantically typing on the keyboard. Why do you have this person on?
Somebody posted a comment one time. I think it summed up our show brilliantly. They said that we are the combination of PBS and Jerry Springer, which I thought was brilliant.
That is a good way to put it. That's a really interesting way to put it. Like you guys were saying just before, with sort of like you sort of don't want to say you can't speak because you want to have as much platform because the best idea will win. How do you guys sort of deal with sort of where you feel like... I'll give you an example of just sort of what I mean. Do you guys remember when Sargon of Akkad was versing, was it, what's his name? The very...
Medicare?
No, not Medicare. That's just, that was memes. But, Sean Spencer, that's it. And it seemed like Sargon just got absolutely pummeled at every single point in that debate. However, we would say that Sargon ultimately had the better ideas than Sean Spencer because no ethno-state's better than an ethno-state, essentially. But however, to a lot of people, it seemed like Sean Spencer got the better of him. So how do you guys combat that, where it's trying to make sure that you're not having this, just having the bad idea get steamrolled over something that's like arguably better? Or
are you talking about Richard Spencer?
Oh, it's not Sean Spencer. Yeah, Richard Spencer. Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in that case, in debate, charisma and personality go. I would say in a lot of cases, almost as far as somebody's art, to some people, you can have somebody watch. I use the example of David Icke, right? He is somebody has outrageously crazy ideas. I mean, that Saturn is a hub station for the Illuminati, just watch it. But when you're watching him, and he's got this personality that's larger than life, and he's cracking these jokes, and he's making you laugh, and you get caught up in that. Sometimes you have cases where that personality can shine through. Unfortunately, for several different reasons, Sargon has a target on his, and people are waiting to sort of for him to fall, I guess. If you go back and I watched that debate probably 3 times, I don't see Richard Spencer getting the best of Sargon. I see Sargon holding to his, sticking to his guns and making the case to me that sounds like the better case. Richard Spencer is overly trying to sound like he's he's your best friend. Like I've got this idea. It's just an idea. It's not going to hurt anybody. You have to be able to kind of discern the difference between those two. One might be selling something brilliantly, but what they're selling is just, total shit. The other one might come across as a kind of a crass, condescending asshole, but he knows what he's talking about. And unfortunately, Sargon and Richard Spencer are the perfect crossover between the people who hate Sargon and Sargon's personality. Sometimes I think it just didn't clash well. But it's in terms of like for us, that's why ultimately Steve and I think sort of at the end, we try to wait till the end of discussions for us to jump in and try to maybe reword something or bring a different aspect to it. We want to make sure that people leave not, what's the word I'm looking for? Not more confused than when they come in. So you have like last night, Steve had to go in and suss out a lot of the talking points, because if you just let them go, you have 2 people who are really science-minded talking. I was sitting there like I had the lights were on in nobody's home. I mean, my eyes were crossing. I had no idea what they were talking about. But yeah, you have to be able to have critical thinking, I think. And if you don't, then you do run caught up in a personality. Steve, I'm sure you can talk about Kent Hovind's a perfect example.
Yeah, and the dark side of debating, and it's sad, but this is the truth. When in actual debating, the person who wins is the person who wins the audience. It's not the person who puts forth the better argument. Now, I've noticed something when it comes to Kyle and I. There's 3 ways of really doing persuasion. There's ethos, pathos, and logos. I tend to do what's called the logos, which is more relating to logic and reason. He tends to be more the emotional, audience's emotions, and that's pathos. But both of us appeal to ethos, which is a credibility and trust. The audience that we have, they trust us, right? They may not agree with either one of us sometimes, but they know that we are going to put out the best information possible. And like he said about the confusion state, when we have people come on that are just not talking to the layperson, that are talking in a discussion that people are not following, then yeah, we have an obligation to come in and say, hey, let's kind of break this down so people can follow. So like he said, they can leave and go, yeah, I got something out of that. So people like, Ken Hovind, or when it comes to the flat earth discussions, it's purely for entertainment value. There's no possible way that a flat earth is going to win a flat earth debate unless the other person does so horribly that the person is just going to run on charismatic properties alone, just because they happen to be very likable. Now, I can't think of too many flat earthers that fall into that category.
I can't think of any.
Yeah, like last night I had to hang out, and then Flat Earth Jesus decided to drop by.
Oh shit.
Yeah, he's okay. He's okay.
He's about the closest I could find to somebody who's actually stomachable, I guess would be the word. Yeah. But yeah, so it's a different approach, and I think that one of the things about the NonSequitur Show is if you look at the ethos, pathos, and logos, it forms a very stable triangle. And the fact that we have all 3 in NonSequitur is something I don't see in many other channels. If you watch some other channels, all they do is just go for, hey, who's more charismatic? I really want to know who has the better argument.
No, and that's
the interesting thing about. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go.
On
You're
you
more.
Uh, I was just going to say, the what I love about the show more than anything is we content creators that everybody's used to. From Sargon to Destiny, JF, Jesse Lee Peterson, Armored Skeptic, TJ Kirk, the Amazing Atheist. These people run the they're on so different ends of the spectrum. Brittany Simon, Godless Engineer, all of these people have these different audiences. They talk about different things. Some are on the right, some are on the left, some are in the middle. But I think we do a really good job of kind of casting them in a light that their audience isn't used to seeing them in. So, like for people who maybe follow JF, if you watched last night, you don't often get to see that side of JF where he's actively talking about good science. Like it wasn't off the mark. Sargon, a lot of people came to the Sargon debate expecting him crass and condescending, and almost everybody left with a impression of seeing Sargon on there. So I think that's probably the most unique aspect of our show is being able to take people who maybe have I don't want to say baggage, but they have things about them that people love to hate. And if you cast them in a different light, then maybe you might be able to kind of give people a second chance with that kind of audience base if they're willing to actually listen and not focus on the drama aspect that comes with each content creator. Because if you do that, you won't enjoy anybody really.
Best compliment I usually hear is that wasn't what I expected. Totally different. I like that because if people come in with expectations, sure, we could meet them better when they say, wow, you know what? Yeah, that was something else. I was not expecting that. Because I do that frequently. I tell Kyle after we get off air, man, that did not go how I thought it was going to go. And that was awesome.
Promise less, deliver more.
Yeah. Don't let anybody down that way, right?
No,
Absolutely.
That's true. And talking especially about sort of having people on, etc. I'm assuming you've probably had some people where you're like, probably not going to have you on. So what's generally your
you're like Kyle? Okay.
Yeah. I've said that a lot actually.
This is true.
You talking about like who we wouldn't platform or people that we did?
There's been on ones that we won't have back. There's been a couple that I just don't see coming back.
You go ahead.
I can name one if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Misha Popoff.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you can, but I really have a desire to.
Not many people would know who that is though. I really can't think of anybody that I wouldn't have back on the spin on. Brett Keane.
Oh yeah, Brett Keane. Dean.
Dean Esbay. Those two I wouldn't have back. Other than that, really, I haven't had any bad experiences with any of the content creators that people would know. They've all been very very nice and they work with us and most of them have been back 2 or 3 times. Destiny's been on 4 times I think total.
Wow.
Yeah, and do you also notice, Kyle, that a lot of times we'll get people that don't want to have certain people on, and those are the easiest to work with.
Yeah.
They never have any issues. They never have any problems. They don't have a long list of demands. They're very simple.
It's very true. Very true.
Okay, and let's sort of go a bit lighter. So what is your guys' favorite discussion or interview for a variety of reasons? Whether it was just like the most just outrageous, just like complete shit show, or sort of like the most sort of engaging for you?
The Sphinx, totally. That's probably been my favorite ones to talk about, personally, because I had a very almost obsessive those are conspiracies that I followed, and I was one of those people that got caught up in I listened to Joe Rogan religiously, and he had Carlson and Graham Hancock. And I heard about and Robert Schoch and their theories about the Sphinx. The Sphinx is older than modern science tells us it is. There's all these different aspects to it that don't make sense. And so I started looking into it. And I feel like, I guess you have to equate it to somebody who believes in flat earth or a conspiracy like JFK, one of those, because you get kind of in these rabbit holes where one line of evidence will lead you one way, one will lead you this way. And so one of the first things that I wanted to do when this got really going is, okay, since we have like good connections with PhDs, and that's another thing, for some reason, in addition to the crazy shows that we do, we actually do have shows where we have people rooted in real science and credible people. Like Tuesday, Lawrence Krauss will be with us. We've got several different just PhDs that run it's so different, like their areas of expertise. But we got in touch with a Egyptologist, Dr. Maggie Bryson. She's amazing through Digital Hammurabi, and we had her on, and also Brian Forrester, who is a huge conspiracy guy. I mean, he believes that in the elongated skulls in the Peruvian people are aliens. But he has some points that he makes about ancient civilization and their how they used to do architecture and stuff like that. So I asked him, and we've had both ends of it, and I could not get answers to my questions. It was either like, I don't know, I don't go on here. Well, then I got an email one time from this guy named Dr. Bob Meeker, and he said, I think I can help you out with the Sphinx. This is my resume. If you're interested, I'll come on and we'll talk. And I was like, sure, why not? We can do a Sphinx, another Sphinx episode. He's a geologist. And so he came on and he had this presentation. I wasn't expecting much at all. And he went through his presentation. And at the end of it, I had to admit that it was done. Like, I had conclusively saw where the errors were. These answers made sense to me. They were done in a way that just to me left no doubt. And so I think that for me, that's how I'm able to kind of have these conversations with people like who believe in flat earth, because for me to look at something like the evidence that he put forth and still go, I still don't buy that. This is what you want us to think, you're just making these points so that you work for mainstream science. That would be hypocritical of me. But in the face of that, I had to admit that he was right. And that's the difference, I think, fundamentally, when you look at people who like come on for flat earth debates. Some of them, most of them, I would say, are just utterly dishonest to a point where I don't think, and Steve and I argue about this all the time, I don't think that as many of them that profess to believe in the flat earth actually do. I think this is a club for persecuted people or people who have been lied to. And so they all can kind of get together and rally behind one cause. But despite the evidence that we put forth each debate, and there's plenty of it, none of them walk away going, well, that kind of made sense, or I have more questions about that. They just leave with what I call the nuh-uh defense. Anything you throw at them, nuh-uh, Earth's flat, you're a shill. And so
now there has been one that changed their mind.
Yeah.
There was one that actually, that was Sean G. After a long, arduous road of having many hangouts with him, he finally realized he was wrong. So it can happen. Now if we can just get Kyle to believe that we went to the moon, that'd be a really major accomplishment.
Yeah, true. Never happened.
It's fake.
Kidding, everyone. Kidding.
I was gonna say, we all know the moon's fake, so how could they ever land on it? Like, come on, guys, come on.
You get it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
See, but you see, I like the shows that surprise me. I gotta tell you, we had a show. The guy's name was Rick Efak. What was his last name? Efrak. Yeah, he was a numismatist for ancient coins, and it's a subject I didn't think I would have any interest in whatsoever. And yet I think it was one of the most fascinating topics that we've ever discussed. I don't know why. It's nothing that I would ever have an interest in normally, but the way it was presented was just absolutely incredible. But I still got to go with, like the Ken Hovind Arn Ra debate, because that was been, and that was just nation of everything. It was just the coup de grace of Ra just obliterating Ken Hovind for us to go watch. It doesn't I don't think Kent ever really fully recovered from that, to be honest with you.
Mm-mm. Definitely not.
Wow. Yeah. No. There's been listening to some of you guys' things. It's been absolutely great. And so, how would you define a successful show? Is it purely just off analytics? We sort of talked about this already, but like, or even just like specifically the debate. Like, how would you define that something has gone successfully?
That's to who will tell you, who will look at analytics, who will look at subscriber count. There are people who religiously, at the end of either putting a video up or doing a live stream, they'll have all of these metrics up, looking at how did this do? Did I lose subscribers when I do this? I don't do that. Like, I look at that stuff because I find it interesting. To me, if I learn something in a stream that I didn't know prior, that's a success for me. If somebody's mind's changed that maybe had the wrong idea, or by the end of it, we're able to say, wow, I could have, that makes sense. I need to look more into that. That's a win. When you're able to take people that are at their core completely opposites. For example, Sargon and Brittany Simon could not be furthest away from personality, their beliefs, everything is completely into the spectrum. When we went off the air with that show, we sat in the call for about an hour and a half after the show ended, them just talking and having a conversation. And they left there having different opinions about each other than they would have had prior to that. And so that, I think, moves people for some reason, people, I think, as a whole, and whether it's due to social media or whatever the case is, we've forgotten somewhere along the way how to talk about things that we don't agree with. We've learned to go and hunker down in our different groups on extreme ends of the spectrum, right, left, alt-right, Antifa, feminists, and the MGTOW crew. They go to these echo chambers, and what that does is they fester and they get angrier and angrier, and they've forgotten that in order to advance society forward, you have to be able to communicate and talk and say, hey, I understand that you have this belief. I don't agree with it, and that's okay. But how can we move forward? And that's what we do most of our time for this show. It's setting up talks between person who believes A and person who believes B, and you're kind of the middleman between those people, all the way leading up to the event and sometimes after. So it's a lot of like, okay, here's the topic that we're thinking of. What do you think? And then they'll give you their thoughts, and you have to go to the other side. And being that middle person, I think it has a lot of benefits, because you're able to see, okay, I have been working closely with Sargon. I've been working closely with Brittany off camera and privately. They're both really good people. They're as respectful as can be. They're nice. So I kind of like both of these people. So now I'm going to be more open to not shutting one out because I don't agree with a couple points. Instead of throwing out everything that one person has to say, throw out the bad stuff and keep the good stuff. And the good stuff that you find, have a conversation with them about it and see if you can't push that forward. And I think anytime that you can do that, then that's definitely a win.
Yeah, it's funny. He exactly said this. I was thinking of three things that as a success to me, and he named two of them, like right off the bat. I firmly think that if some people can change their minds, people learn something. Huge win. And then just the people that just thank you for having a good show. When somebody says, hey, you know what, this was good. Thank you for having these guests on. Thank you for bringing these things together. That means something to me, because I don't see a lot of that on other videos. I watch things on YouTube. I see people criticizing the video. I see people, talking about the video, but I don't see people going, you know what, hey, you know what, thank you for making this happen. And yet I think we get that pretty much every video almost anymore. And that to me, people not only want to watch it, but they know they're getting something. They're just not finding something somewhere else, and that feels that niche for them. But yeah, I think the key thing is bringing people together that normally you wouldn't see together. Like for example, we had along with Brittany. There's just nothing that I thought that I would even get along with her. One of her good friends, she lives 15 minutes from me. We go to lunch every so often. We hang out. So I mean, and we enjoy talking to each other. So you never know what happens with people. You see them in a specific way. You hear what they have to say. You see their tweets and things of that nature, and you kind of get this impression. Hey, you know what? Yeah, they may not agree with me on certain things, and I probably won't like them. And find out, hey, you know what? We may not agree on certain things, but we can have a discussion about that.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so.
No, that's no. It's. I think that's all valid. Like very, very valid, and just being able to have that discussion, and like you said, it's just amazing that you're able to come away from it, sort of being better friends with someone, I guess, that you never thought you could possibly be by purely just having this discussion. That's something really important. I think very valuable.
It doesn't always end that way.
No.
Those are the shit shows.
Yeah. That's true.
Probably majority of time it definitely doesn't end that way. Sometimes you have the case where either you have to kick people off, or they just get obliterated and wound up angrier at the person that they're. Pretty much everybody that's debated Aaron has walked away scathed to a point where they should probably not debate ever again. It's just that bad. Aaron's Aaron's one of my favorite people, and sometimes I was talking about maybe the softer approach. Sometimes you need a hammer. You need somebody that can just go up against these ideas and shatter them to pieces. Kent Hovind is such that he's been around since the 80s, espousing the same thing. He got out of prison and started right back at the same. You can literally take a Kent Hovind debate, take two Kent Hovind debates, and take Kent Hovind, what he says out of this debate and what he says out of this debate, and switch them. It'll be the same thing. Both debates will still make sense. And Aaron was just able to kind of get in there and hold. They didn't get past one question. Aaron asked one question, and they debated for an hour. And he just wouldn't let him go. And sometimes you need that.
Because Kent is obviously famous for gish galloping. He's very good at it. He'll throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and expect you to kind of address all of it, because he knows if you get him on any one single point, he's done. And he wasn't going to let him go from a single thing, because that was what the topic was supposed to be. And so everything else that Kent had to discuss about, Aaron wasn't having any of it. Time, that's what we were expecting. We made no real promises to Kent. He later on said, well, I was told this and I was told that. No, you weren't, Kent. He certainly wasn't from anybody from our show. He has no evidence of any kind of that. And so we told Aaron, this is your deal. You run with it. If you can obliterate him on your thing, be my guest. And Kent got slighted by that, but we told Kent, hey, we're not giving you any concessions on this. You're going in fair and square, and if you can't hold your own, that's just too damn bad.
Every show has a boogeyman, and Kent Hovind is our boogeyman.
No, well, definitely I understand that feeling of just like you need that person with the hammer just to absolutely smack him out. And like for me, like I thought racism was a real thing until Jesse Lee Peterson came on. Like then that to me was just like he's like
did that surprise you that it's not for some reason? He's
amazing.
Like, amazing. Yeah, I was like, Jesse, really? So wait a minute. Wait, no more racism. Okay, great. We live in an idealistic society. Fabulous. I'm all good with that. Are you sure about that?
No,
you're beta, Steve.
A gamma epsilon delta.
It's just great because I remember listening to one with him especially. It was just like, oh, so racism doesn't exist yet. So why were the Ku Klux Klan a thing? Well, they just hated black people, but they weren't racist. It's like
right.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah. You know what though? I am in the middle of by tomorrow in our merchandise shop. I'm putting together a T-shirt in honor of Jesse Lee Peterson called radical homosexual, and it's gonna have that. It's gonna be awesome. I'm almost done with it, but it's got like a lightning bolt rainbow going through the middle of it, and it just says radical homo and then sexual underneath it. So if you are a radical homosexual, wear it loud and proud and let them know that you're not hiding
Didn't
anymore.
he say you weren't one of those radical ones? You were a radical homosexual, but you weren't one of those types.
Yeah, I wasn't. I don't think he knew I was gay until he looked back and caught my kind of my quips, because I was like, radical homosexuals. Tell me more about those.
No.
Jesse was great though. Jesse was great on the.
It was
excellent showman.
Not what I expected. Yeah.
Excellent showman.
And it's just amazing, like some of the people you get, especially like Jesse. Like, how do you guys network and connect to all these like crazy diverse guests and have them on your show?
Email.
Just email?
Yeah, we've over the years built up a rapport with a lot of great guests. I started building up my channel on guests years and years ago, and so that kind of just branched out. So between Kyle and I, just messaging people and asking them,
I literally just
pretty good.
I literally just send. I watched a video with. I was actually watching. I go through my subscriptions a lot, and somebody did a response to Jesse Lee Peterson last week. It was last Wednesday, and I watched it, and I knew of Jesse Lee Peterson. I didn't know, like, I had never like sat and purposely watched one of his videos, and so I was watching this, and I was like, this guy is fantastic. Like, why have we not had him on? And so I went to his website and I emailed the contact email in there. It was probably 3 hours later I got a response from the guy who sets up his interviews, and said, "What are you thinking? What day?" I told him what I was thinking. Well, he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And they were his entire team. I have to say, they were a pleasure to work with. They were responsive, and all of our emails were answered promptly. They didn't give me any headaches, and so it was the entire experience was a pleasure. Now, does Jesse have horrible ideas, and are they disastrous? Yes, but a lot of people, and a lot of comments were left about this too, which I find a little bit disappointing, because people aren't able to kind of discern differences in nuance here. I don't think, but some people were disappointed because they think that we were too jovial in that interview with Jesse. But when you have somebody that is an African American man who grew up literally with Jim Crow laws, saying that black people were better under Jim Crow, saying that racism doesn't exist, and referring to the president of the United States as the Great White Hope, I'm sorry. Forgive me if I don't take that as the most serious.
There's comedic value there. There's got to be
in the world. I wouldn't change a thing about that interview. I
wouldn't either. I read
fun.
those comments as well, and even I was taken aback. I'm like, look, there's different ways you can approach a situation. Ours was doing it with levity, and I think that's the way you should with certain situations, because we're not trying to piss the guests off. Right now, if there's some kind of egregious a-hole and they're just spewing vitriol, then we're going to do what we got to do. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we have limitations. But if we just have somebody that comes on and they just have, bizarre beliefs, then we're going to suss those out, because that's what we want to hear. Of course, we're not agreeing with them. I mean, anybody who thinks that we agree with Jesse Lee's,
the man has beta Tourette's.
Didn't watch the show, obviously.
I mean, the man has amazing and beta Tourette's. Like, he just uncontrollably will shout out beta. I mean, forgive me if I'm not, if I don't treat it as though I'm talking
How do you not laugh at it? Take it for what it is. I mean, again, do you really want to have a show where all they do is piss off the guest? No. I mean, sometimes, sure, it's fun, but most time, no.
No, that's very.
We had one that had so much roid rage to the point where I thought his veins in his neck was going to.
Oh yeah, burst. That was bad but even before we went on air.
Before we went on air, it's already tense.
He was cussing us out.
Not in a happy mood, going off on us.
He was cussing us out live.
It went from like level 1,000. And it was one of the best shows because I was like, I'm not letting this guy get away with any of this crap.
Jesus. Oh, that's amazing.
Thank you. That's amazing.
Amazing.
I honestly.
Can we get sued for stealing his catchphrase?
Yes.
I hope not.
Wait,
Okay.
is he trademark? Oh, that'd be great if he trademarked. Amazing.
I hope he does.
Oh, that'd be great.
He's such a beta. He probably would.
Yeah. I think one of the most interesting things, like, I don't know with Jesse whether or not you should go in, like, with Jake. When I was watching you guys thing, Jake treated him 90% of the time pretty serious. Like, he was addressing him pretty seriously, and it was like, all right, Jesse, let's go this point by point. But I feel like that's just like, no, just take it to the whole next level. Just start just going down rabbit holes that you thought never possible. Don't necessarily hold them to too much, and just go nuts with it. Like,
Well, I completely see where you're coming from that, and I think that's what we tried to do. We tried to be that person in the debate, because to a certain degree, you still want to have sort of the person there that is the opposite of what that person thinks is correct, right? So Jake would be, and when you have somebody like, there were a couple of times where he made some comments that I was just like, whoa, like the calling. Oh man, who was he talking about? Eric. When he called Eric Garner,
and the guy that got choked.
Yeah,
out.
Called him a fat pig. I'm glad that fat choked out.
Wait, he would have survived. That's when the moment of cringe was like, okay.
Yeah. Or that homosexuals are homosexual. They journeyed away from their father and a mother.
Women shouldn't be in positions of leadership.
Yeah. Now, I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually send it out today. I'm inviting Jesse back for a more personal interview, not with a debate with anybody, but just with him to kind of dive into. He alluded to a little bit about, which is I thought was fascinating. He alluded to a story about his grandfather or great grandfather on a plantation, and they wanted his great grandfather to fire someone. His great grandfather refused, and they wound up killing his great grandfather for not doing it, for standing up to them. There are a lot of stories, I think, that maybe happened to him that kind of is responsible for shaping Jesse Lee Peterson for who he is today. And I think it would be interesting to kind of go through and dive into those. I don't know if he'd be willing to do that, but I asked nonetheless. And so I'm hoping that he takes me up on that, because it would be, I'm just fascinated, like whether he really believes that stuff, or this is a exaggerated act that he has. Either way, I think it's brilliant. He's either the most racist African American person I've ever met in my life against black people, or he is the greatest method actor and he deserves an Academy Award. So
I believe he actually believes what he believes. I believe he is racist. I mean, I know people that I definitely will say don't believe their own shtick. Alex Jones, not for the life of him, right? He's a character actor, clearly, but I mean, Jesse Lee would have to be one of the most brilliant actors of all time to pull that off the way he does, because it's what you expect from just an older, codgely kind of old dude that just not quite maybe there in some ways and has had a hell of a life. And then probably in any other circumstances, you would love to sit down in a comfy reclining chair with him, with a fireplace, have a cognac and a cigar, and talk about what happened back in the 60s. Right? That'd be awesome with him, I think.
No, I honestly, I'm really interested about his team, especially. Because I'm just going to go off the assumption that everything he's saying is true, because just, Jesus, how he says it, you just assume it. But I want to know if his team genuinely is like supporting of him, or they get it. They get he is just a complete and utter shit show. And
that's a hard question. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. I know that the people that I interacted with are really young guys. Like they're around my age.
Very nice, though. Very pleasant to work with.
Yeah, they're very nice.
Very personable.
I think that if he is genuine in a lot of the things that he believes, you'd almost have to expect that they do to a certain degree, or at least they put on the front that they do, while they're there. I don't know. That's, like I said, that'd be very difficult to kind of suss out. But I think it would be worth biting your tongue in a lot of cases just to be able to watch that every single day on a daily basis. I watched him this morning. He was talking about I think he was talking about he's hung up on the mother issue, like forgiving your mother, and he was talking to a guy that's part of the bond philanthropy that he does, and the guy was saying that he went up in front of the congregation at church and took Jesse's advice and forgave his mother for all the spankings that she gave him when he was and he was like, "Oh, that's amazing, amazing." He was just tickled to death. So I mean, like I said, you can't help but watch. I mean, even if you hate Jesse Lee Peterson, you're gonna watch the things that he does. There are several people on YouTube I can't stand, but I still watch because you want to know, like, the people that you kind of have adversarial feelings towards are saying.
I can't do that any longer. There's certain people that I won't watch. I have no desire to. I don't care what they're saying, adversarial or not. They can say whatever the hell they want. I don't care. I don't want to watch them. I don't even hear their voice. The fact that we resurrected BK, Brett Keane, for a little while was enough. Just to almost put me over the edge. Just to hear his voice again was enough to put me over the edge. I don't want to
Steve,
hear that.
I've been here since the beginning.
Oh, God. I mean, it's just triggering at this point, right? And so, yeah, I'm fine with just letting them do their thing. And if other people want to listen to them, I got no issue with that. But I'm not going to go out of my way to listen to Brett Keane with this whole, like, 12 people watching and stuff like that. He's just of insignificance. I don't want to, like, give him any more credence because he's not worth anything. I think that shouldn't be on the internet. And shouldn't him and a few just will never go away. They're like herpes. Once they're there, you're done.
Well, no, that's
the herpes
great.
of internet. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
We call him mutual herpeist. That's the nickname.
Wait. So now that I'm talking to you guys, will he now come after me like herpes? Like, I don't understand. Is this
probably?
Yeah.
It's feasible.
If he gets it, yeah.
It's feasible. Yeah. If he knows that we're on here, it's quite possible. Sure.
He does, because I tweeted it out, and he follows. It's almost certain that now that we've brought him up, you will be the subject of a.
He's probably watching right now. Yeah.
Of a video. Of a video. Yeah.
Oh, that's...
All these atheists, these pedophile atheists, are sitting around in a.
See, this is what these pedophile atheists do. They just talk about me, and they can't get me out of their minds because I've been such a prolific person on the internet here with such vast amount of information that I bring to the table.
Steve, your Brett Keane sounds like he's 80 years.
That's what he's going to sound like when he's 80.
He won't make it 80. Let's be real.
He looks like he's 80. He's younger than I am.
That's great. And
figure that one out.
Yeah. Well, there's I think the last thing I think I want to ask before we wrap this up is I asked a couple of people certain sort of, I'll throw in a hypothetical. I like to ask this one to certain people, just get like what people think. And it's kind of interesting, sort of the different reactions and different responses we get from different people and what they believe. So you may have heard this one before. Let's say you died and you went to heaven, and God was up there and he goes, "Look, I like what you do. I like your show. I think you're pretty sweet. But let me tell you something. The Nazis had it right? Morals, Nazis pretty much on the head. Nail on the head. They got it. Nazis knew exactly what was right. And everyone else who wasn't a Nazi, done, dead. Shouldn't exist. That was just a mistake." But he says to you, "You know what? I like your show. I think you're good. I like what you do. I'm going to send you back to Earth, and I want you to let everyone know, as soon as you let it out into the world, everyone will realize as moral truth that anyone who is not Aryan, pure blood, whatever, shouldn't exist. And if you do that, you get to go to heaven. If you don't, you live the rest of your life and you go to hell, but no one will know." What would you guys do in this situation?
Well, is that what you think's going on with Richard Spencer?
Immediately changed the
think that's
name
a
of
true
the
story?
show to Non-Sequitur.
Yeah,
I would I would
go
I
ahead,
would
Kyle, then I'll get
I
on.
would tell that God to fuck off, and if he wanted to send me to hell, I would probably skip my gay ass into those flames before I will spend an eternity worshiping a Nazi.
Yeah, I take a different approach. I'm a pragmatist. Look, people have done a lot less for a lot less punishment. The thought of having eternal damnation, which by the way I don't believe in. I don't at all believe in any physical place called hell that's its fire and damnation. But let's say for the sake of the argument, for arguendo, that it does exist. Then I think most people would do whatever it takes to stay out of it. I think that the false bravado people put up saying, "Oh, well, I would tell the God to screw off," if it actually happened, I don't think that they would. I honestly don't. I know I wouldn't, and I would probably do whatever it takes, because the same reason why slaves capitulated to their masters, right? I mean, people way back when did horrific things because of a more like a carrot stick approach, right? And so if they didn't do what they were told, they get beaten, and this can wear a person down. And can you imagine an eternity of this? And all you have to do is go down there and tell people certain things. Okay, now would there be ethical considerations? Yes, but
that's such a horrible answer, Steve.
it's not a horrible. Fear is a very motivating thing, right? And
no, but listen to what you're saying. Listen to what you're saying. You would be. And you're Jewish.
Listen to what I'm saying very carefully here, so not to be miscontextualized. You're talking about an eternity opposed to what happens on Earth, which has no consequences later on for you in that case.
Yes,
in other words,
we're talking about your moral fortitude.
If you can save everybody on the planet where they all get to go to heaven instead of hell just by that little thing, I'm okay with that.
That's not your option, though. That's not your option. Your option is that
does everybody else, well, even still, I mean, most people are going to be like, well, I'm going to save myself to try to.
I refuse to believe that. I refuse to. Yeah, I'm not going to. I refuse to believe that there are people who.
I'm the
I think for the most part. I think for the most part, people have that kind of moral credence that they would look at it, somebody telling them that. The destruction of 6 million people was an okay thing. I'm okay with that. And then and somebody looking at them going, okay, I can sell that.
Yeah, well, I don't see that. I just know from I'm military training, stuff like that. Look at you can get tortured. People have broken for a lot less of torture and will do horrific things. And
some have, yes, but there are some who haven't.
I don't think any human being could withstand eternal torment, and that's why I don't think it's even something that exists. It makes no sense to me for any kind of benevolent God to have eternal torment. I think they're contradictory, involved in that, right?
Oh no, he's not benevolent. He hates everyone except the white Aryan. No, he is very, very hateful.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't be a god at that point.
He's a Satan, fucking Nazi,
right?
he's space Hitler. Let's just call it that.
Yeah. Well, I like that.
Yeah, well,
Sky Hitler.
It's a crappy universe that we got in then, yeah. But I have to be pragmatic on that, and yeah, I probably would do what I was told out of sheer fear. Now, would I feel guilt, remorse? Of course. These are unethical things, but you have to look at a consequentialist approach that you're gonna be suffering for eternity, doing something that you think is immoral. I'd rather do an immoral act.
What is the worst suffering?
I'll get over that.
What's the worst suffering, though? Burning for eternity, or bowing at the feet of a Nazi deity that smiles when people are suffering and are gassed alive. I couldn't do that. That to me is a worse torture. Yeah,
both suck, but being in pain.
No.
Pain is the biggest motivator there possibly is.
But also remember that if you do put it out the world, like everyone in the world will know it and immediately believe it. So you basically, people will never have like a meaningful life unless they're like a Nazi.
Yeah, you brainwashed everybody into being a Nazi. Well, at least we know one thing. JF will probably be the guy at the pearly gates in that scenario.
No, he's got brown hair. He doesn't count. Even him, nah, fuck him.
Yeah, he's done. Damn it.
Brown hair. No.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, by the way, as you mentioned, I'm Jewish because my mom's Jewish. I'm saved either way. I think, according to the Jew. I think that if you're Jewish, you're good to go. I'm like, yes, cool.
I can't even look at you right now. And we have a show. In 30 minutes. Work this. I have a show in.
Yeah. So you answer honestly, and also you're a Nazi. Yeah, I don't think it works that way, man.
No.
It's a very motivating thing. People have to
I'm
take
glad you
that into
asked that
account. I don't
question,
think.
Brian. It shines new light on people.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
well, it's honesty because I got to tell you, I think it's a false bravado. If you have an omnipotent God, evil or not, that's telling you to do something, you're not going to stand up to him. With threat of pain, it's not going to happen. People don't even do that with human
Want to bet?
dictators. They don't stand up to
They
them.
do all the time. Look at those people that
Some
got run
do.
over in Tiananmen Square with those tanks. They weren't
Yeah,
moving.
some do, but you have that happen every single day for eternity.
People
I think they're going to
that
change their mind.
raided Normandy on the beaches, they stormed the beaches. The people on the front lines at every civil war that
Yeah,
ride into battle.
I think they would
Like
change their
Queen
mind if
Elizabeth,
they thought that was
Queen
going to be for
Elizabeth,
eternity.
the Virgin Queen riding in her golden knight's outfit into battle as a woman and the Queen. She gave zero fucks. There are people who look at authority and tell it to go fuck it.
Well, what do you think about
I
Ryan?
happen to
If
think,
for eternity, would you
happen to think that we're still full of those people.
not for eternity? I just don't see it in the human.
well, it's sort of hard
condition.
to sort of perceive eternity, but it's like it's a really complex question, and it's like it's really hard for me to sort of give a pinpoint answer on it. It's like ideally it would be great to know that human civilization as a whole will live sort of blissfully ignorant and not, I guess, be living in this horrible moral universe. But there was a because I asked Destiny this, and he put this in a really interesting light, was that like if there is an actual person who can give morals, it's kind of weird to sort of go against that. It's sort of like he put this analogy with like let's say there was one person on one side of a wall and everyone else was in the other, and the guy on the other side of the wall was telling you that this side's orange, this side's perfect, this side's great. You have no real reason to sort of distrust that person because they're the only person telling you, sort of thing. And it's puts into this moral sort of quandary of like, well, if you go against him, it's like you're like, is it even possible to really go against what I guess true moral is? Like, are you the ultimate like anti-moral realist out there? Like, you just have the ultimate perception, and it's kind of an interesting thing to think. But I honestly I go back and forth on it, on which would be the better option, because it's
you tell that guy on the other side of the wall that you don't care what color his side of the wall is. You're looking at your side, and your side is rainbow colored, and he's on that side of the wall, and he's not doing you any good on this side of the wall. So it can be.
You got no reason to believe me either way. I mean, it's 50-50, right? I mean, you actually are agnostic on the proposition.
I'm a skeptic.
He's telling you the
I'm going to
truth,
say
right?
it's green.
So, if somebody's telling me that the other side's better and you have a choice, do I want to jump on the other side and take the chance of making it better or making it worse? I'm probably going to stick where I'm at, because it's like flipping a coin, and that's guessing. And guessing is never going to be something that's justified for making a decision. It's not belief. So if I think that, hey, that guy over there's telling me the truth and he's convinced me, I'm going to need something concrete, not just his word, right? So I'll probably stay on my side.
No, that's
fair. Better.
Well, let me end with this then. Final word. In life, there are henchmen, and then there are heroes. You decide what you're going to be. America.
Amazing.
Beta.
That's great. Oh, amazing. Well, thanks guys for joining me. It's been a great hour listening to you guys. Honestly, great show. I love listening to NonSequitur Show when it pops on. So if anyone who's watching this on later on YouTube or now on Twitch, just where can guys find you, and how can they do what they need?
Well, make sure first that you get cleared by a doctor that you're in good physical health, because blood pressure is definitely a side effect of NonSequitur, so you're going to want to make sure that you aggravate that any further. You can just go to NonSequitur Show in YouTube. We have a website, nonseq.com. That's NONSEQ show.com. And if you're not part of our Discord, join our Discord. We have I think we're close to 2,000 members there now. There's debates going on all day long. We have different debate rooms. You can text debate. You can voice chat debate. There's a gaming section on there now. I stop by after every show in the voice chat, and we kind of talk about how the show went, and just kind of interact there. So it's a really cool place if you want to interact.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, guys. People watching, catch me. This will probably go up on YouTube in the next week or two, but also check it up on Phoenix Radio in the I think it's in 2 weeks now. Oh, week and a bit. So yeah, check it on Phoenix Radio at USQ or phoenixradio.com.au. We'll thank you very much for joining us, guys, and thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for asking us.
No problem.